Well, we closed the book on the 2014 Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference football season, and the more things change, the more they stay the same, as Bethune-Cookman is a winner in the Florida Classic. They're also a winner of a share of the MEAC championship. With my broadcast partner, Ron Mitchell, I am Mark Gray. 18-17 in overtime win. Congratulations to Bethune-Cookman, but you can't underscore enough the heart and the resilience that Florida A&M played with. Really with nothing more to play for than Rattler pride. What a virtuoso performance today.
Hey, with the, this past season has been very up and down. They've had a lot of shortcomings, and the start of this game was kind of like the rebirth of what their program needed. It was a David and Goliath approach. They looked like they were undermanned size-wise, but they played with a lot of resiliency, and they gave a lot of good effort.
And let's talk for a second about Damian Fleming, who won't go down as a championship-winning quarterback at Florida A&M. But you're talking about a guy who comes up about 60 yards short of being the second player in history at Florida A&M to reach the 7,000-yard passing mark. When you consider the only guy to do it was Antoine Ezell, who was throwing passes to Terry Mickens. You had Quinn Gray, who was ultimately the offensive coordinator for Fleming. He knocked on that door too, but he had the likes of Kanan Lamb and Jacquay Nunnally, an NCAA record holder. Damian Fleming had absolutely nothing. No players around him to step up. But I can't think of a guy who got as much out of what he had, which was nothing, in a career like that. Only maybe Howard's Greg McGee. So Damian Fleming, how should we remember him?
I mean, he was a guy who stood the test of time. That program, coaching changes, different offensive coordinators. And kids these days need to establish a lot of rapport with the coaches, and it helps them with the play calling and confidence on the field. This year, a lot of turmoil, but he was keeping them together. It was his adhesive, cohesiveness that he was trying to do. He was trying to mend, he was trying to pace, and he painted a good picture. Today, he couldn't stay off the ground.
Right.
He was getting hit. He walked off a couple of times, but he came back and he led them down the field and put them in the end zone with some great passes. But unfortunately, they came up on the short end of this game. His stats, they didn't look so good. He couldn't get 100 yards passing.
Right.
Overall, fam, you had 146 yards total offense to 357 from the BCU team. With that, you can't expect much, but it was a great ending to a game that even went in overtime.
Well, let's talk about Bethune-Cookman. We talk about for the third time in the last 4 years, the Wildcat Nation can celebrate a share of the championship. But if what we're hearing as we record is any indication, they are at least technically on the outside looking in. The automatic qualifier allegedly goes to Morgan State, which is a big story in another regard. But Bethune-Cookman, I mean, you got a win on your ledger over Florida International. You pretty much ran roughshod through the conference until you had a couple of slip-ups, most notably against Hampton University. Can you make a case for Bethune-Cookman as an at-large to get into the playoffs?
They play good, they play solid. And last week against Hampton, that was a big hiccup. And it may weigh heavy against them, go against them, actually be their downfall, not making into tournament play, as some would say.
So it'll be interesting now. In the MEAC, all 5 teams will get a share of the championship. They will be looked upon as co-champions. 5 champions? Does that say solid conference or mediocrity?
No, I mean, it was just good play. Teams, they have to strap it up and they come back and play and they compete. When you have a good conference, overall, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose, but you're going to have to pick that one guy that's going to be able to make it.
So it'll be interesting to see how things shake out as far as the MEAC's at-large bid. They do get that automatic qualifier to the FCS playoffs. So FAMU season ends in heartbreaking fashion, the same way that it began in Jackson. And your thoughts, what are the traits that they need to find in a coach?
Well, they're going to have to find someone that's going to be able to speak to the Rattler Nation, and they feel the confidence that they're going in a positive direction. And I guess Kellen Winslow, senior AD, started off on the wrong foot. I guess if you get everybody in tune, everyone gets CC'd the memo when you make a decision, but then they're gonna have to realize their program is not doing well. So you're gonna have to take some setbacks because they're gonna have to be on a corrective measure in order to get back into winning.
And we all know that black college football is a lot stronger when you have teams like Florida A&M and Jackson State who are contending for conference championships. Quickly, you and I get the Bayou Classic next week, Grambling and Southern. Grambling, arguably the most triumphant story in black college football. Southern, hey look, it's still their championship until you take that discount double checker from around their waist. That's gonna be a heck of a game.
Hey, next week is gonna be, like you say, the granddaddy of them all under our umbrella, and I think it's going to be a great game down Bourbon Street. Is going to be popping.
It certainly was. So those of you who thought that the Bayou Classic needed to be changed and it wouldn't amount to anything, I think you need to revisit those thoughts as Southern and Grambling get ready for the Bayou Classic next week. But here in the Florida Classic, in the soon-to-be newly remodeled Citrus Bowl, it's going to be a nice building. They still got some work to do. You like the amenities, so that next year when we get here, it should be the Shangri-La. For Ron Mitchell, I'm Mark Gray. That's the story from Orlando. We will see you on the road for the SWAC West Championship next week in New Orleans as it's Southern and Grambling from the Bayou Classic. As always, for all your HBCU news, notes, and information, keep it locked to HSRN.com, the voice of choice.